I'm Arlecier West, and welcome to King County at your service. You've probably seen their seaplanes buzzing over Lake Union. Well, now meet the family behind the iconic business, Kenmore Air. They've just been honored a Spelman Award for Historic Preservation.
I started out doing remote control airplanes, and then I was like, all right, what's the next thing after that? And it's flying the real planes.
Clear. My son was pretty much born, came out of the womb wanting to drive things, fly things.
I've been flying the same routes that my great uncle Greg flew when he was my age.
San Juan Islands and so forth, up into Canada and these unique places that you can only get by plane or by boat. Just a grand adventure. I mean, this whole business has been a grand adventure.
Kenmore Air was started by my grandfather, Bob Monroe. It started out with he and two high school friends. They ended up buying an airplane to restore in their garage, and it happened to be a seaplane. Their first flight, they took off right from the property right here in 1945, and somebody was driving by when they saw the airplane take off and asked if they taught flying lessons, and they said, yes, we do. Now we do. So that was the beginning of the business. My grandmother and grandfather raised their family right here on the shores of Lake Washington.
I grew up here on the property. Our family home was right here. We were on the other side of the tracks as far as my friends at school. The steam locomotive used to go by on the railroad track up here. Now it's a popular bike trail. Kind of tells you how long I've probably been around here on this property, but watching the whole area grow up has been quite an experience.
But what makes it really special is the people that we've been able to work with over the years. We've had people that have worked at Kenmore for decades.
Kenmore, it's here in King County, its roots are here, and we love being here.
Taking people up there, especially for their first time, and showing the beautiful Pacific Northwest, it's just a special thing to be able to do that.
I just hope it never gets old. You know, it's always exciting every time, and I hope it stays that way.
I think our business is the coolest business in the Northwest. Actually, I think it's the coolest business in anywhere.
Historic houses usually don't survive long if they're vacant. It takes a special kind of vision and love of history to see their potential. Check out the McEvoy House in Skykomish. Its thoughtful rehabilitation will make you smile.
I just like the optimism that comes along with bringing houses back to life. We are in the McEvoy House in Skykomish, Washington, in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, just 15 minutes from Stevens Pass. Patty McEvoy was involved with the Great Northern Railway, and when the railroad was built over Stevens Pass, he was one of the first engineers to bring a train over the pass. And he decided to start a tavern in Skykomish, and then he built this house. And that was in the 1890s. When I came in for the first time, this house had been vacant for about 15 years. There was not heat. The floors, they were covered in layers of paint. The windows, I probably could have just pushed them out. I knew that I was the crazy person who could buy it and who could try to bring it back and give it its life back. The original floors could be saved. Some of the original exterior siding of the house was found. And so I left one wall exposed because I wanted people to be able to see that. And I just tried to do things that would match with the period of the house. And just since I've been here in town, people come by and say, oh, I lived there, or my family lived there, or my best friend lived there, and I went to gatherings all the time. And houses in particular, they represent all the people who have lived here, all the families. I've met so many people in town. I've learned so much about the community because of this house. So I'm really happy to be here in the midst of all of this richness.
Sometimes you can learn a lot about history just by hanging out at a Metro bus stop. Here's the story of a stop near Douglas Truth Library Branch in the Central District.
The Douglas Truth Library, I see that as a focal point in the community. It holds one of the largest public collections of African American literature on the West Coast. Sitting at the corner of 23rd Avenue and East Yesler Way, it's near and dear to me because that is my community library. It sits really high on that hill, so I like to call it a beacon on that hill. The history on all four of those corners is very important, but the library, established in 1914, originally, Henry Yesler Library, but by 1975, the community had come together and said, you know what, that name just doesn't represent our community and who we are. And so people were entering names of what they thought the name should be. And of course, the top two, right? Sojourner Truth, and Frederick Douglass Truth Library. When we can appreciate that it was free space for Black people to gain knowledge, building the literacy within our community, it's priceless. Douglas Truth holds one of the largest public collections of African American literature on the West Coast. The African American literature collection just holds so much value, and not everyone knows and understands really what's there. During the war, during 1940s, is when the conversation around collecting Black literature began out of Douglas Truth. And so that collection continues to be built and is a really beautiful thing. Again, I think we said that it wasn't originally named Douglas Truth. That was a whole process, right? Some of the folks who are very instrumental in that are on that bus shelter panel that's directly across the street from the library. So there's a little bit of history in the photos and panels there that want to engage people about the history of the library, to know more about the history of the library. It's just a really beautiful community library, and those panels help to tell that story.
Here's a question for you. Where in King County do the Tolt and Snoqualmie rivers meet? The city of Carnation, of course. It's also where you can find picturesque farms, lots of local history, and a surprising music scene.
Carnation is a small town of about 2,300 people in the foothills of the Cascades here in the Snoqualmie Valley, with a lot of history, a lot of farming, a lot of arts and music. It's hard to find a more environmentally pleasing place.
It's kind of like the secret paradise over here. It's such a short distance from Seattle, but as soon as you come down into the valley, people just kind of breathe easier somehow, and it just becomes this hometown for everyone that comes here.
The original name for this town was Tolt, and it's an Indian name derived from the word Tolthu, which means rivers of fast waters, because we have the two rivers. One river is the Tolt, one river is the Snoqualmie. And the Snoqualmie tribe had a big long house down here where the Tolt comes into the Snoqualmie River, and they lived here for thousands of years. The first white settler came here in 1858, and most of the settlers came from the Scandinavian countries. We had lumber, we had fish, we had farming, so this was a land of opportunity for them. E.A. Stewart was the owner and founder of Carnation Farms. He started doing condensed milk, and he expanded and started doing butter and creamery and a lot of different products. And all around the world, even today, you still see Carnation name when you go to the dairy part of the store.
Our famous cow statue is actually one of the most productive dairy cows in history. It produced somewhere around 35,000 pounds of milk in 1 year, which set a record. And they attribute that to the way that that animal was cared for and the practices that Carnation Farms endorsed at the time. Now we are transitioning into an organic and regenerative farm with the idea that we need to leave the landscape better than we found it by doing things like increasing the organic matter in the soil and the biodiversity around the farm. You cannot beat regenerative and organically produced products in flavor. Every season, we're hosting several events where we have people coming from around the country who want to discuss the future of sustainable farming. So it's a real honor to work on a farm that has been at the forefront of agriculture for its entire history. It's a real American legacy.
Carnation has a rich history in agriculture, and today we're surrounded by these gorgeous flower farms. A lot of the flowers are grown by Hmong families who came from Southeast Asia in the 70s. And much of what tourists buy in the Pike Place Market comes from these Hmong farmers bringing their spirit and artistry to Snoqualmie Valley.
Live music has been a part of Carnation for decades. It all started with a happening in Duval in 1968, and after that, this place became a music mecca. We have music almost every day of the week in the summer months, whether it be at the Farmers Market, Pete's Club, Miller's, Brody Nation Music Festival, Remlinger Farms. We also have Camel and Medieval Village, where they do medieval live music gatherings and festivals.
Hamlin Medieval Village is a living history museum project where you can step back 600 years. We have cottages, shops, and the Boar's Head Inn, where we serve food and drinks that you might have in the 14th century. So it's kind of an immersion experience in the world of your ancestors.
The most special thing about Carnation is the people that live here. I think our city government and go-getters here in the community have done a very good job of preserving our history and small town feel. We have a lot of motivated people that want to see our history and our culture survive and thrive and put all that in the forefront for the newer members that are coming and joining our community. So I think the future of Carnation is a bright one.
Thanks for joining us for King County at your service. Check us out online at kingcounty.gov/KCTV. I'm Arlecier West. We'll see you next time.